Hello and welcome to Middle Eastern Thursdays. So today I have for you 7 fragrances. So as we continue to prepare for the summer season, I have continued to test behind the scenes different fragrances. Some of them are brand new 2024 releases. And today I am ready to give you a full detailed review on each of these fragrances. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances because we love to smell fabulous at all times. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes I even have a bonus video of the week for you. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. So the first fragrance that I have for you today is SHAHD by LATTAFA. So since I didn't get an opportunity to haul this fragrance before bringing this review, I'm going to go ahead and show you the box that it comes in. It's very much a basic box, but it has like a nice design, just regular box. So if I had to give one word to describe this fragrance, besides the fact that it is quite a beautiful fragrance, I would have to use the word intense, because this juice is quite intense. This fragrance opens with a great deal of white florals. You can also pick up on some Lang Lang almost immediately, but to my nose, the jasmine is quite dominant. This fragrance, guys, is truly a beast mode fragrance. This is a floral with a lot of character to it, and one that if you are not into white florals, this is definitely not the fragrance for you. This fragrance is quite musky and powdery due to the note of orris. This fragrance also has a good amount of tuberose to it. I tell you, if you are not into white florals, this would definitely not be the fragrance for you because it is quite intense. Do I think that this is one of those white floral fragrances that could give you a headache? I don't think so, because the first time I tried it, I did overspray, and I literally had to go shower because it was just too much, right? But the second time that I tested it, I just sprayed it, and it didn't give me a headache or cause any type of reaction. But I will tell you, this is a very intense fragrance, and I clearly pick up on the jasmine and the tuberose. To me, those two are the star of this fragrance. This is also very musky, and there's like a nutty, creamy quality to it, especially at the dry down. This also has some orris, which brings that powderiness to the fragrance. All in all, this is a very lovely fragrance. I just really feel like I need to caution you on the fact that it's quite intense. It's not just beast mode, but it's like intense in the degree in which each one of those floral notes have been done right now, and I really haven't even had a chance to let this fragrance sit for a while. I'm getting 7+ hours without overspraying. If I overspray, God only knows how long it would be, but I just really can't overspray this fragrance because it is truly a bit much. This is also a fragrance that if you're shy or demure, or you're planning to go somewhere where you don't want to make your presence known, this is not the fragrance to wear then, because this fragrance is a commanding and demanding attention type of fragrance, if you know what I mean. This fragrance has a super strong projection during the first almost 3 hours, and on my skin, that's without overspraying. It's also one of those fragrances that I think you would really want to reserve for more of an event, right? This is not the type of fragrance that I would spray on just to run some regular errands or go to the supermarket or pick up the kids from school. No, this fragrance is more for a specific type of event that you have to attend and where this is your fragrance choice. Because again, this is a very I am here kind of fragrance. Also, because of the level of florals that we find in this fragrance, I would say that this is one that definitely leans feminine, heavy on the feminine side. I would even dare say that it's just outright a feminine fragrance. I just don't think that this is unisex at all. And I also can't envision a man wearing this fragrance. I give this fragrance an 8 out of 10. The next fragrance that I have for you is AFNAN 9am. This is a lovely fragrance. From the first time that I sniffed it, I really did like it and actually started to fall in love with it. But once I completed testing, I can tell you that this is a fragrance that I really enjoy. This fragrance opens up quite fruity, but with a beautiful musk. It is sweet and has quite a bit of citrus notes to it. And it also has a beautiful powdery dry down. To me, this is, like the name says it, definitely a fragrance that I would reserve for earlier hours in the day. So let's say in the morning, late morning, and early afternoon occasions. But I think this is an absolutely lovely fragrance that is actually perfect for the summer season. This fragrance to me is completely feminine. I consider this fragrance to be like quite fruity and tropical for the most part. And it really does immediately to me speak to like a summer vibe. But I also have to tell you, for those of you that may not be into this, that I also get like a suntan vibe from this fragrance. This is not a beast mode fragrance, but it really does have very good performance because currently I'm getting 6 to 7 hours when I wear it. And if I spray it on my clothes, that does prolong a bit. This fragrance hasn't had a chance to sit and macerate. So the fact that I'm getting 6 to 7 hours per wear is actually, to me, quite good. I get a very strong projection with this fragrance for the first 2 hours, and then it does become a very demure scent bubble. And right around hour 4.5 hours, it does become a skin scent. But again, remember, this fragrance hasn't had a chance to macerate. But all in all, I think this is such a beautiful fragrance. And you know, I couldn't find any fragrance that it was inspired by, but whenever I sniff it, I get like Tiziana Terenzi memories. I don't know. You know, it's just that anything that has this level of fruitiness and is sweet and then has musk, I don't know. It's always like it brings me to Tiziana, but there is something definitely here that is reminding me of the Tiziana Terenzi fragrance DNA. All in all, I give this fragrance an 8 out of 10. And the next fragrance that I'm going to share with you today is Paris Corner Sunrise Killer Oud. This is another fragrance that I did not get the chance to haul here on the channel, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the box and then the bottle. So this is the box that it comes in. And it just opens so, and the fragrance would be encased there. And here is the fragrance. This bottle feels quite weighty and luxurious, and the cap is not flimsy at all. There is not an ounce of a cheap feel to this fragrance. So this fragrance is supposed to be inspired by Amouage Sunshine, but the for men. So I own the Sunshine for women, and for the longest time I had been looking for the Amouage Sunshine for men, but I just could never find it. So when I heard that this one was inspired by Amouage Sunshine for Men, I thought I definitely have to give it a try. So this fragrance opens up quite aromatic. It has a good amount of vanilla. You pick it up immediately, but the opening is very aromatic. There's a lot of vanilla, it's sweet, it's fresh spicy, there's a beautifully done lavender note here. And the lavender is not in the background, but it's not a dominant note, but it's definitely present and one that you're going to pick up. There's also some woodiness here. But all in all, I have to tell you guys that this fragrance definitely is a unisex, leaning heavy to the masculine side kind of fragrance for me. This is definitely a fragrance that I would reserve for the summer season. And do I see myself wearing it even though it does lean masculine? Oh, absolutely. Because I also think that I can do quite a bit of layering with this fragrance if I'm wearing it on a day where I don't necessarily want to wear a fragrance that leans masculine. So I'll just probably layer it with another fragrance and give it kind of a twist. Because all in all, the foundational scent profile of this fragrance is one that I'm really attracted to. Now, if you own Sunshine Woman from Amouage and you're wondering, well, Arahi, is there any comparison between them? Well, they do have similar notes, but overall, for me, the scent profile is a bit different. It's not like if you don't own Sunshine Woman, I would just tell you to go ahead and pick up this one and you'll be fine. No, because this, for me, for my nose, this was definitely designed with a man in mind. There's a freshness and the citrus notes have been done like you typically find them in a male type of fragrance. This fragrance is quite intense and it gave me 8+ hours without overspraying. I'm pretty sure that if I would have oversprayed, it would have been like 10 to 12 hours. It also has a very strong projection during the first 2 hours, and then it becomes a scent bubble, but a very powerful one at that. It also has moderate sillage, and this is one that I think you can dress up, you can dress down during the summer season. This is not a fragrance that I would use during the fall or during the winter at all. You can definitely pull this off during the spring without a problem, and perfection for the summer. Keep in mind that I have not had a chance to let this fragrance macerate properly, and it's already performing at the level that it is. I can tell you that I know that I am going to be using and pulling this fragrance, and I give this fragrance a 9 out of 10. The next fragrance that I want to share with you is LATTAFA's TAMIMA. So the first thing that I want to say about this fragrance is please don't let the bottle fool you. Because although the bottle looks like this, the juice inside is nothing like what the outside of the bottle kind of intends to tell you. This is another fragrance that I did not get the opportunity to haul before reviewing it for you, so I'm going to share the box. If I had to pick a description for this fragrance, I would say that this is a fruity, fresh fragrance. There is quite a bit of fruitiness to this fragrance, and it opens up with a blast of fruits. But it's not like it's an obnoxious opening with all those fruits. No, it's done pretty nice. It's also a sweet fragrance, so you have to like a sweet fragrance. Is it cloying or a too sweet, kind of annoying type of sweet? No, but it is definitely a sweet fragrance. To my nose, what I get primarily as dominant notes are, in all honesty, all those fruits are present for me from the first moment I spray to dry down. And at some point, I do pick up on some violet. All throughout the journey, what I pick up the most are those fruits with a backdrop of like the rhubarb and the violet. There's a touch of powderiness throughout the journey, which is then emphasized at the dry down. At the dry down is where the magic happens with this fragrance, because you're gonna get like a vanilla caramel mix with like a creaminess to it, which I think is courtesy of the sandalwood. And then you're gonna get like all of the fruits that you experience throughout the journey with a very specific focus, interestingly enough, on like the peach and the raspberry and the pineapple. And then all of that is supplemented with like a background or a backdrop of like the florals. And that is when I actually pick up on the rose, but I get the rose and the violet. I did forget to mention that this fragrance is supposed to be inspired by Dolce & Gabbana's L'Imperatrice fragrance, which is a fragrance that has been around for quite some time and which I haven't had my nose on for many, many years. So I can't speak specifically to the comparison to L'Imperatrice, but that's what it's supposed to be inspired by. This is a fragrance that right now, and without having had a chance to sit and macerate, I'm getting 6 to 7 hours from. And this is definitely a moderate projection and moderate sillage, and a fragrance that I do not consider unisex. I think this definitely leans feminine. I really think that this is truly a lovely fragrance, and one that I know that I'm going to enjoy during the summer season. And what I think makes it perfect for the summer is that although it is a fruity fragrance, it does have some very powerful florals because the violet is definitely present. I also find that the rhubarb kind of gives the fragrance some earthiness and grounds the fragrance, giving it additional character. So that right there separates this fragrance from other summer fragrances you may have in your collection where the fruits are the dominant notes. In this one, the fruits are definitely dominant throughout the entire journey and at dry down, but they have done a very, very good job of having those fruits balanced out by different florals and then by the vanilla and the caramel and the sandalwood at the dry down. All in all, I give this fragrance an 8 out of 10. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you is quite a new release from LATTAFA, and one that I had been really looking forward to trying and testing. And I'm speaking about LATTAFA's NASHAMA. Now, just before we get started, let me let you know that this fragrance is supposed to be inspired by Initio's Paragon, which is one of my favorite Initio fragrances and which I do have in my collection. I actually think that I just recently featured it in one of the ranking videos of my collection. This is also a fragrance that I did not get the opportunity to haul here on the channel, so I'm going to share with you the box. So it comes in this quite large box, which also has a very interesting shape. Overall, the bottle is quite weighty and does feel luxurious, but the cap, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It is plasticky and the cap itself feels kind of cheap. So let's go ahead and talk about the fragrance itself. And then towards the end, I'll go ahead and do a brief comparison between this fragrance and Paragon from my testing results. So this fragrance also opens with quite a bit of fruit, but the dominant note in the opening immediately is a beautifully done, juicy plum, like ripe and juicy but plump kind of plum. It is sweet, aromatic, fresh, spicy, with quite a bit of citrus notes also. But the citrus notes are really not dominant in any point of the olfactory journey. It's really all about the fruit notes, but within the fruit notes, again, the star here is the plum. In the opening, you also get like some spices. Specifically to my nose, I pick up on pepper, and I dare say that there's a combination of like pink pepper and black pepper going on. As you approach the dry down, you're going to pick up on a good amount of patchouli because it does make its appearance in a dominant way, but then it almost like fades into the background. At the dry down, what I get is the most beautiful, sweet and juicy plum with like a backdrop of like moss and a tiny bit of oud, and the oud is quite smooth, almost to the point of being negligible. Like you really can't notice much of an oud note at all. This is a fragrance that to me is definitely unisex. This is also a fragrance that I would pull for any season, but I think that this fragrance is just perfect for the summer season, and I would reserve it like for afternoon, late afternoon, and evening occasions because It is such a rare type of fragrance for me, just like Paragon, because it's like it does have that fruitiness, which this one, I'll tell you right now, to my nose is fruitier than Paragon. Paragon is like a bit drier, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I think that this fragrance, because of that plum note that has been done in such a juicy and the sweetness, I think is perfect for the summer. And I think it would be perfect for an afternoon occasion or for early evening or later in the day. This fragrance hasn't had a chance to sit much at all, and I'm already getting 7 to 8 hours from this fragrance without overspraying. This is also a fragrance that has quite a strong projection during the first 2 hours, and then around the 4th hour is when it becomes a scent bubble. Not a strong scent bubble, but like a moderate one. Sillage is also moderate. This is definitely a unisex fragrance, and I really don't believe that it leans much to the male or female side. Now, specifically to the comparison between this fragrance and Paragon, I can tell you that for me, this is like 85% Paragon. And I just find that the dry down of this fragrance is definitely fruitier, as I said earlier, than the dry down you find in Paragon. I also find this fragrance to be considerably less oudy than Paragon. Another thing that I really distinguished when comparing this one to Paragon side by side is that the lavender note in Paragon has been done a bit differently, which is why I gave this one only an 85% because of the note of lavender. So the lavender in Paragon seems to be done in a more refined and kind of like sophisticated way than in this fragrance. It's not that the lavender is screechy or anything like that in this fragrance. It's just that in the Paragon fragrance, I find that lavender note to be very smooth, very smooth. And when comparing them side by side, that became a very marked difference. All in all, I think that this fragrance is 85% of Initio's Paragon. So we may be able to say that this is really not Paragon, but Paragon with a twist. And the twist is that added amount of fruitiness to it, as well as less of an oudy fragrance, which makes it a bit more wearable for those of you that really did not appreciate the amount of oud in Paragon. I also think that this fragrance is a bit more suitable for the summer season than Paragon, as there are days, like if it's really warm, like above 80 degrees on a summer day, Paragon is not typically a fragrance that I would pull. But this one, I would definitely, without hesitation, pull. I really think that this has been done beautifully, and I really am enjoying and loving this fragrance. I give this one a 9.5 out of 10. All right, so the last two fragrances that I have for you today are fragrances that, oh my goodness, they were immediate loves. And one of them is the fragrance that I spoke to you about in one of the posts that I left in the community tab this week. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Paris Corner EMIR Cherry Cola. And it comes in this box. So this fragrance is supposed to be inspired by Mancera's Tonka Cola. I have had my nose on that fragrance, but I don't own it. I have to tell you that this fragrance opens with a very strong cherry note. There is something peculiar about this cherry note. It does remind me of the way that Tom Ford's Lost Cherry opens, because for me, that fragrance has almost like a bit of a synthetic quality to the cherry. And that's exactly how this one opens to my nose. It opens with that very strong cherry note that is a bit synthetic. And then immediately I start to get that cola note. Oh my goodness, this is such an incredible fragrance, guys. This fragrance is so good that I don't know, I've been thinking about picking up Mancera's Tonka Cola just to compare them both and to have them both. This fragrance is also warm, spicy, and has like a gourmandish quality to it. There's also like a syrupy effect to it. I don't know if you've ever been to like the Coca-Cola company and you've gone on a tour, or Pepsi-Cola, any cola company. If you walk through their facilities, you are going to get a smell that I'm picking up clearly in this fragrance. And it's like that syrupy cola smell. But in this fragrance, that syrupy cola smell also comes with that very strong cherry note. At the dry down, what I'm definitely getting is a cherry cola scent, but it is fresh, curiously. It is very, very interesting because there's nothing cloying about this fragrance, even though all throughout the journey and even at the dry down, you do get that syrupy sweetness from the cherry and the cola being mixed so well together. This is a fragrance that I would use all throughout the year in any season, and one that I think is truly unisex. To me, there is no lean female or male to this fragrance. This is definitely a unisex fragrance. This is also a fragrance that I would probably pull more during the summer season because I just think this fragrance is so different and so fun. Although this fragrance hasn't had a chance to sit and macerate properly, I am currently getting 6 hours from this fragrance on my skin, and I'm getting a very strong projection during the first hour, and then it becomes a scent bubble. This is a fragrance that, believe it or not, I would pull for any occasion, whether it be casual or semi-formal or formal. I would even probably wear this to the office. This to me is almost like if you have a cherry cola and you're drinking it and all of a sudden you spill it on yourself. This is exactly what I think that would smell like. All in all, guys, I really do love this fragrance. I think it's so different. There's nothing like it in my collection. And this is not one that I would have ever thought to pick up, which is probably why I never picked up the Mancera, because I thought, cherry cola, really? But this is definitely a fragrance that I find to be quite fun without being too juvenile. It's just, honestly, it's just a lovely, beautiful, different, and perfect for summer type of fragrance. I give this fragrance a 9.5 out of 10. So the next and last fragrance that I have for you today, guys, is a fragrance that, oh my goodness, it definitely has me on a chokehold, obsessed, addicted. I don't know what is it about this fragrance. And the funny part is that this is a fragrance that's designed to be for males. So it was released for males. I decided to pick it up because I saw the notes, and I'm also preparing for like some male content videos. So I decided to go ahead and get it. But wow, my surprise when I sprayed it, and I first immediately sprayed it on skin. Wow, I was just absolutely floored and blown away. And I am speaking about LATTAFA's ASAD Zanzibar. Now let me just start by saying, if you are an iris and violet lover, please pay close attention because, oh my goodness, this fragrance is a 2024 launch, and it just launched maybe about a month ago. This fragrance opens with a very prominent iris note. It is also very powdery from the get-go, but the powderiness is just done so beautifully and airy and just light. It's just perfect. There's quite a bit of vanilla here. This is very ambery. It's fresh, spicy. I can pick up on the pepper in the opening also. There is a beauty to this fragrance that I'm going to talk about in more detail in a minute. But there is a clear, salty note to this fragrance. Not to mention the fact that there is some lavender and violet. So let me just talk a little bit about the feel of this fragrance. And you know that when I go there, when I say the feel of a fragrance, you know that it's because I have a lot to say. So, you know those summer days where you are at the beach and you're not just sitting in the house at the beach or just sitting at a restaurant that is on the beach. No, you are at the beach. You're in the sand, you're sitting in your chair, you have maybe your umbrella over you, or you're just laying, sunbathing, but you're at the beach and you're in the sand. And the ocean, the water is right there, and you can hear the waves, and there is a saltiness to the air. And if you are in the Caribbean somewhere, most likely there is a palm tree above where you're seated. And maybe that palm tree has a couple of coconuts in it. And maybe one of the coconuts dropped and opened when it dropped because it hit the sand so hard. And then you pick up that incredible coconut scent. The coconut scent is not very strong because the center of the coconut is not fully open, but you just get like that light sniff of that creaminess of the coconut. That is what you're going to get in this fragrance. What you are going to get at all times during the day when you wear this fragrance is you're going to get an incredibly creamy, smooth coconut with like a vanilla and tonka bean mix to go with it on a backdrop of like a marine quality and powdery type of effect. It is just an amazing, amazing summer fragrance, because let me tell you, that powderiness that I pick up on and that marine quality that the fragrance has from the spray to the dry down and throughout the entire wear of the fragrance makes this fragrance like fresh, which adds a total spin to that summer fragrance vibe that you're getting from it. It is just the most addictive fragrance that I have right now for the summer. Incredible. And the funny thing is, like I said at the beginning, this was designed for males, but I just think this fragrance is truly unisex. Most importantly, I did spray my husband with this fragrance the first day because I wanted to know if it was just me having a moment, right? But when I sprayed it on him, number one, he loved it. And my husband is quite finicky. And number two, he definitely agrees that this is not necessarily a male fragrance. This doesn't smell like a man's fragrance. This is truly unisex. He said, I can see a man wearing it and I can definitely see a woman wearing it. And that's exactly how I feel about it. The other thing that I do want to bring to your attention, there's actually a couple of things. Number one, and I always like to tell you things like this, right? If you are not an iris and violet lover, you are not going to like this fragrance. If you appreciate those notes and you're okay with those notes, you'll be fine. You are going to love this fragrance. When it comes to the note of coconut, if you do not appreciate that creamy kind of coconut that could border on lactonic, but it's not lactonic, if you are not into that, you are not going to love this fragrance. If you are not into fragrances that have a very strong marine quality to the point of bringing in salty notes that exalt that marine quality, this is not going to be for you either. Now, for those of you that are really into the iris and violet notes type of fragrances, I also want to caution you and tell you that the iris in this fragrance is more earthy, if you know what I mean. It's really not like your regular iris that's just bringing that powdery effect. No, this iris is also quite earthy and grounds the fragrance and gives the fragrance more character, not making it just a light marine type of fragrance. No, there's definitely some serious character to this fragrance. This fragrance is a beast. I am getting on skin 10 plus hours, and if I spray my clothes, it will not leave my clothes until they're laundered. This is an incredibly strong fragrance. I get a very strong projection. I mean, guys, the projection of this fragrance will take you up to 3 hours with a strong projection, at which point that projection, at least on my skin, goes down a little bit, and around hour 5 is when it becomes a strong scent bubble. This is a fragrance that has already garnered me some compliments, and I only tested it for 2 days. I really intended to test it for one full 12-hour day, But the next day I had to spray it again because I was so in love with this fragrance. This fragrance is highly addictive and one that I think is perfect. When I tell you perfect, this is like summer at the beach in a bottle. Let's put it that way, right? So this fragrance is one that I would take on vacations. I would wear it for any occasion, day or night, but specifically during the summer. All in all, I can't speak highly enough of this fragrance. I give it a 10 out of 10. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I really hope that this was enjoyable for you. I highly recommend, honestly, all of the fragrances that I shared with you today because they're all so different. But of course, my top recommendations are that cherry cola fragrance and of course, the Zanzibar fragrance from LATTAFA. Oh my goodness. Please let me know if you've tried any of these fragrances and how you feel about them. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me as usual, and I will see you in the next video.